Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Ann Marie. Actually, this is my first virtual episode because I started Tea with Ann Marie as a way to move around South Florida and talk about business, politics, and community happenings. And while doing that, to showcase a local tea or coffee shop, one of my favorite ones throughout South Florida. And so we started Tea with Ann Marie a few months ago, and we highlighted Circle House Coffee, which is one of my favorite spots in Fort Lauderdale. And then the second one was at Subculture Coffee, which is here in West Palm Beach. However, COVID-19 happened, so we had to pivot. And I did one. My last Tea with Ann Marie was a couple months ago when the coronavirus first started spreading, and just trying to get information out about resources. So I'm happy to be back with you. We figured out how to take this thing virtual and still be able to have guests. So today I'm going to be joined by one of my good friends, and we're going to bring her on camera now. One of my good friends, Rita, and I'll read her bio, which I'm sure this is the abbreviated version that she sent me. But for those of you who, again, don't know what Tea with Ann Marie is, it is a informational show to just inform you and share my thoughts and opinions, as well as my guest thoughts and opinions about what is happening in business, politics, and community happenings around South Florida, as well as around the nation. So let's bring Rita on with us.
Hey, Ann Marie.
Hey, Rita. Hey, how are you?
Great to be with you.
Oh, thank you. I am so happy that you could join me today. For those who don't know, I've known Rita for about 16 or 17 years now. Yep. When I first got involved with the Urban League of Palm Beach County, and became the Urban League Young Professionals president. And Rita was very involved with the Urban League, as well as many organizations, as she has been for as probably as long as she can remember, but definitely as long as I can remember. And she's just always been a good friend, supporter, and mentor. So Rita, I don't know if I want to read your whole bio because you are amazing. You're such a rock star. But you are the founder and president of Top Tier Leadership, which is at toptierleadership.com, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Rita works with leaders who want to build respectful cultures, deliver results, and maximize performance. She's the president of Top Tier Leadership and is an award-winning international consultant, leadership expert, and high-impact speaker. She has extensive experience investigating claims of discrimination, facilitating discussions on building collaborative workplaces, and has trained over 100,000 employees on respect in the workplace. I'm going to go into some of your community involvement. You worked at FP&L for many, many years. You served as the company's first female division, Human Resources Management, the first diversity director, winning top honors within 2 years among utilities of like size throughout the U.S., and was the company's EEO Affirmative Action Officer. As a seasoned consultant, trainer, and speaker, Rita has frequently delivered keynote addresses, facilitated high interactive workshops, and conducts C-level retreats. Oh my gosh, can't keep up. In 1999, the Florida's governor recognized Rita's impressive skills when he appointed her to serve a 4-year term for the Florida Commission on Human Relations. This opportunity allowed her to actuate the commission's purpose of promoting fair treatment of and equal access to opportunities for all citizens of Florida in the areas of employment, housing, public accommodations, and private club memberships. Ooh, we got to get into that. Rita also helped the commission to encourage mutual understanding and respect among all Floridians by reducing intolerance, antagonism, and intergroup tension through education, legislation, and enhancement of public awareness. Within a year of service, the commission's 11 other governor appointed members voted Rita chairperson, a position that she sustained until completion of her second term in September of 2007. And Rita currently serves as the chair of Florida Commission on the Status of Women, one of 22 commissioners in the state, and vice chair of Discover the Palm Beaches. Welcome, Rita, rockstar Rita. That's what I'm going to call
Oh, thank you. You're too kind. Oh, one thing you might not know, Ann Marie, I think we connected so well because my name is Rita Marie Ann, and you might not know that. So there is this connection there.
There you have it. Ann's and Marie's and all that are great.
Great to be here.
Well, thank you. So today we had a lot to talk about, and I do want to put this disclaimer out there. These are my personal opinions, and I'm sure Rita's personal opinions about whatever we discuss today. It has no reflection on our organizations or the organizations that we represent or do business with. These are personal opinions. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there.
Good one.
So today we're going to be talking about business. I want to know how your business is doing. We're going to, remind some people about some different things that are happening. There was some deadlines. I believe there's a deadline coming up tonight for additional funding for businesses. I want to talk about, the workplace. We're talking about race relations. So as a part of business, there are some components of that. It's not just about what we've seen in the news with police brutality, but it goes far deeper than that. So I want to touch on that as well. And then we're going to go into what's been happening in and around the community, both locally and nationally, as it relates to race relations. And then we're going to talk about the upcoming elections because we have our local elections in August. And we have the general election in November, which both are super important elections. We want to make sure people get out the vote and just become educated on candidates. So are you ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready to rock and roll. And I know when I'm with you, I'm always going to be rock and rolling.
Absolutely. Always fun times. So how is your business? Let's start there. How is your business going during this time? It's been a couple of months, almost 3 months since COVID-19 took our country by storm and our community by storm. How have you been doing?
I'm hanging in there. Well, I do a lot of workshops and keynote speeches and so on. And so I think it comes to no surprise the hospitality industry was really impacted. So all of my speeches and workshops were put on pause, rightfully so, because very quickly companies had to stop, pivot, and get employees at home and keep them safe. So right now we're starting to see companies rescheduling their conferences, which are good, rescheduling some training. I actually had some anti-discrimination training already on the books that I was supposed to be delivering. So I'm hopeful that we can pivot and turn. One of the things I did early on is I feel very fortunate. I've had really terrific clients who've been very good to me and a community that's been great to me. And having been involved, as you said, with so many of the nonprofits, I immediately reached out and told them, look, for the next 2 months, I'll do whatever you want. And so I want to put it out there and just shared back. There's so many people who had nothing, a lot of nonprofits struggling. And some businesses, even for-profit businesses were just finding themselves in a place that they'd never been before and never prepared for, right? So I just try to do whatever I can to help. And I always feel that it always comes back.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure you're going to be fine. You're an amazing, talented professional. So, and everybody knows and loves you.
Thank you.
So for us, because I haven't really been live, in months, and that's not usually my norm. Yesterday, I was fortunate to be a part of MIA Media Group's launch of Lunch with Legacy Leaders. So shout out to MIA Media Group. Thank you so much for considering and selecting me to be the host of a very important show. And it was really good. We had our county administrator, Virginia Baker, on yesterday, and she highlighted some what's happening in Palm Beach County specifically. So for business, for us, man, I tell you, the first few weeks of staying home was I thought it was going to be super challenging, number one, and it was in some regard, because it's like, okay, well, what is going to happen? There's still a lot of uncertainty out there, especially with the resurgence of the numbers getting, coming back, climbing again, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I will say that I thank God that as a business, we were really prepared as it relates to just having our back office in order, as some small businesses don't have back offices in order. Mm-hmm. So I think we were very prepared to be able to respond when funding came about, and we were able to apply for PPP and a couple of other loans. So thank goodness we were able to get some funds. But like you, a lot of our projects were put on hold. Events were, canceled or postponed. And our boots on the ground, our grassroots outreach that we do, most of that has been put on hold. So we've definitely had to pivot and figure out, okay, how can we still reach the community effectively for our clients? And so we have some added virtual services that we've added as a result, which is a good thing. And thank goodness for a few of our clients who really needed us to help them with the crisis communications in this whole COVID crisis. And so we were able to ramp up for them really quickly and help them get the word out about their different initiatives. And so what I thought was going to be a little bit of a break wasn't really. So I'm not complaining. I thank goodness for the work. I thank God for the work that we had. But we literally were working for 7 days a week for the first 3 weeks, because everything kept changing on the hour for the clients that we were responding to. So we were fortunate in that regard, where we've been able to keep all of our employees, thank goodness. And so now we're just, again, making the adjustments, looking at how do we move forward? How do we pivot? How do we, I don't want to say recession proof our business. Maybe it's now global crisis proof our business. Yeah. And so with that being said, I think that and I'm still not sure how to respond and help businesses prepare for or even continue to survive and thrive in this crisis that we're facing, because it's still very uncertain. Some businesses have done well and have actually made so much more money as a result of the crisis. And then others are just kind of like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to have my doors open. I mean, do you have any advice that we can give business owners out there?
Yeah, I think there's some things people can do. I think many people panicked in the beginning because maybe they're living paycheck to paycheck or had a lot of employees and woke up one day and their business stopped. Or maybe they have the technology to allow them to work at home or feel comfortable because of the kind of work. So I think first and foremost, if you're still in that letting go, I want to go back to the way it used to be before COVID, is to process that and get to the chaos, work through that. And then what I always call is focus, recommitment, and get moving forward. So find out where you're at. And let go again of the way it was. It's not going to go back. I don't like to call it the new norm, because I don't know that there is one. So I try to call it the new next, because I think there's going to be a new next. We're in hurricane season now. So there's always going to be something. So it's going to be very critical for companies to, one, look at your finances, obviously, get them in order, make sure that you stop some things that you just don't need to do. Look at how you might be doing them differently, less expensively, or not as often. And then, of course, I think that companies need to use this time. I mean, how many times did all of us say, gosh, if I only had a little more time, I would redo my website, or I would develop a new course on leadership, or I would. And now I find a lot of people I talk to are like swimming in Jello every day instead of being focused. So I'm a real advocate of the night before writing my goals. I've always done that since I was a kid. And the next day I know I have to work through my list and get those things done, because it's too easy to say, man, we've been at this since March. And if you look in the rearview mirror, are you proud of what you did and how you spent your time? So I think those are some of the things people should do. As you said, look into some of the resources out there that they can be served by. There are courses online on massive open online courses, they're called. You can look at Khan Academy, Udemy, and others, and you can take courses from the best institutions in the country for free. So
I agree. Yeah, I agree. So some of the things I definitely want to share with our listeners as far as resources. So if you are in Palm Beach County, tonight is the deadline to apply for the county grant through I believe it was a part of the CARES Act. So if you get your application in by 11:59 today, you will be able to have your application processed. They're funding up to $25,000 for businesses. All the guidelines are on the website. So, make sure you do that, and you can go to Palm Beach County's website, which is pbcgov.com. So definitely check that out if you have not applied, if you're a Palm Beach County business. The second resource I would say is there is the Main Street grant that was put out as well during COVID-19 as a response. Main Street funding, I believe it's a loan program. So look up Main Street funding, which is another federal program. And then there's still an opportunity to apply for the EIDL, which is the Emergency Injury Disaster Relief Fund that the SBA has. And I believe they are lending up to $150,000. You don't have to repay anything for the first year. And after that, it's a 3.6, I believe, interest rate, or 3.75 interest rate. And it's up to 30 years that you have to pay it back. So when I was on a call, a business call that I was on a couple of weeks ago, and one guy said something that stood out to me. If I don't remember nothing else about that call, he said that he has a friend who has, helped start and grow and scale 6 companies that grew to billion-dollar companies. And his rule of thumb to those companies were to never run out of money. So his advice was apply for everything you can. So because your goal is to never run out of money, because when you run out of money, then what? And so for myself, I was like, you know what? Let me apply for this SBA loan. And if we get it, we'll put it away and just draw from it as we need it, because we don't have to pay on it for 12 months. And we did apply and did receive the SBA loan literally just late last week, the end of last week. So, but it's, we can draw from it. So I put that advice out there to anyone. And then there are other resources. PayPal just launched a fund. Lowe's just launched a fund, and I believe both of those were for minority companies. So there are definitely funds and resources that are being put out, whether it's 5,000, 25,000, 100,000, whatever it is. Just don't run out of money.
And make sure they're legitimate. That's one thing too. You have to make sure it's legitimate.
Yes, do make sure it's legitimate. Make sure you're going. Don't give out all your information to entities or organizations that are not legit. Do your research. Check, fact check. Make sure that they are legit. And then just some other tips. If you like Rita said, this is a time to definitely be focused. Work on your marketing. Work on your website. Work on your materials. Position yourself as a subject matter expert. This is a great time if you do trainings, or if you want to write a book, an ebook, whatever that may be. This is a great time to focus on those different aspects to pull yourself out of this, because people are still buying services and people are still buying products and goods. And you just have to figure out how to pivot and now set up an e-commerce if you have to. If you never sold things online, well, this is the perfect time to learn how to do that.
Whatever it takes.
So let me see, because I think we're trying to fix. Oh, okay. So I have some questions coming in. EIDLE is agriculture only now. Okay, so you guys may have missed that deadline for regular businesses to apply. Thank you, Reverend Patricia Wallace, for sending that comment in. So yes, so that was the business side of things. Now let's dive a little. For community resources, because if you're not a business and you still need community resources, I do want to put this information out there. If you are in the community, a community member, a resident of Palm Beach County, and you need rental assistance, you can also go to the county website and get that information as well, where they will assist you with your rent. If you're in Hallandale Beach specifically, because they're one of our clients, so I do know about this, they actually just reopened their rental, mortgage, and utilities assistance program yesterday. So if you're a Hallandale Beach resident, there is funding available for rental assistance, mortgage assistance and or utility assistance in Hollandale Beach as well. So there are programs out there for you guys if you are in need. We definitely don't want anyone to become homeless as a result. The governor did extend the moratorium on rent and mortgage payments for those who need, those extensions. So, there is assistance out there. So you're not alone. Continue to look for those resources. Continue to tune in to programs like this to learn about those. All right. So COVID-19, before we get back into race relations, because that's going to be a whole dialogue.
Can't wait.
So COVID-19 do we have somebody else in the back room? Oh, okay. Senator Powell's here. We're going to have him come in with this conversation because he can also give us an update from the state. So Senator Powell, how are you?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. You joined a little earlier than I expected.
Yes. What ended up happening, Ann Marie, is we have a meeting with the Palm Beach County elected officials. Our meeting with the county administrator today to discuss some very, very important issues. And because of that, I have to jump in early, and I'll have to jump out. It's very good to see Rita this afternoon. Rita,
well,
a good friend of mine. It's very. Hello. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
How are you?
I know you're working very hard. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. And also thank you for the magazines a while back. They've been very, very helpful. And I also found how to get more. So you're awesome.
I have more for you. So.
Well, Senator Powell, thank you for joining us. For those who may not know, hopefully you all know Florida State Senator Bobby Powell. He's my leadership Palm Beach County classmate. So, but everybody knows you, Bobby. So we were actually just jumping into COVID-19. So we'd love for you to share with us any updates you have from the state on how we're looking with this pandemic.
A couple of things I can tell you right now, really, really quickly, keep people updated. We're at over 67,000 cases of coronavirus here in the state of Florida. I did not do an update last night, but I have been doing a legislative a view of what's happening with regards to coronavirus every night live on Facebook at about 10 p.m. Last night, I did not do one, but on Wednesday night, we were around 67,000 cases here in Palm Beach County. We are at
did we lose him?
Oh, there he is.
Okay. You back?
A little bit more. Someone was calling me, so it knocked me out for a minute. But we're more than 7,000 cases in Palm Beach County. We've had about 400 deaths, if you look at it. And then as it relates to racial data, it shows us statistics show us about 19% Black population have contracted the virus, somewhere around 45% white. And then about somewhere around 10% other. But then we have this unknown that's around 20% of the people who are unknown that have been tested for the virus. Now we're testing in 67 sites here in Palm Beach County. Of course, the free sites include the Palm Beach, the Fit Park of the Palm Beaches, or the ballpark of the Palm Beaches at 15 Park. We got down south in South County at the South County Civic Center. And then over in Belglade, we have the Lakeside Health Center. Well, there's also the CL Brumback Community Centers that are testing, and a lot of testing is now happening by physicians, so you're able to be tested more frequently. Now, we have been seeing a surge in the state of Florida. From my understanding, a day ago, or 2 days ago, if it wasn't last night or the day before, there's been a record number of 1,600 new cases of coronavirus here in the state of Florida. We are obviously not out of the water or out of the woods when it comes to this virus. It's still very, very dangerous. That is why it is important that people wear masks when they're in public, socially distance, wash their hands, and just very, very carefully stay away from people. I know we've all been locked inside of our houses for a while. Some of us, I go outside and exercise, but I am also back at work and we're socially distancing at my day job. What I would recommend to people is, I know it's hard. You haven't seen many of your friends for a long time. And now as we go into phase 1 and potentially phase 2 of the reopening of the state, you want to hug people. Be very, very careful. Treat everybody as if they have coronavirus. Love them from afar. If you really love them, don't hug them.
Wow. So, okay. With that being said, I know that and Rita, please chime in, there's a push for phase 2 opening for Palm Beach County still happening. The governor made an announcement today. I didn't get all the full details, but I know he made an announcement with universities and sports. So, and then another announcement about schools being fully open to full capacity in August. What are your thoughts on this, considering we have numbers going through the roof in the last few days?
Well, I'll tell you this. There's been some contradicting information related to asymptomatic people, where we've been told that asymptomatic carriers don't really spread the disease. That can't be accurate, because inside of our prisons, they've said that 95% of the people who contracted the coronavirus have been asymptomatic. And that means it's spread very rapidly inside of the prisons here in the state of Florida. Over 1,500 cases of coronavirus in the prison. So there is asymptomatic spread. I will tell you that if your children go to school and they come in contact with somebody, the kids could be asymptomatic, but that does not mean when they go home to mom and dad, or if they stay with granddaddy and grandmommy, that someone won't get sick and potentially die. Now, I tell you, there's nearly 400 people, probably at this date, more than 400 people who died in the state of Florida from coronavirus. And I have known some of those people personally who have died. So is my wife. So I can tell you that people may say, well, it's a hoax or it can't be real. People are dying, and when they die for real. They don't come back, and they're not having funerals the way you usually have funerals. It's been a mess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's actually 2,877 deaths in Florida. As of
400 for Palm Beach County.
Yeah, as of today, and 70,900 across the state cases.
Now you take a look at that. If you look at the number of cases across the state, and we've had over 2,000 deaths. Notice 400 deaths in Palm Beach County alone is problematic. At about 800 deaths, more than 800 deaths in Dade County, and then 300, maybe 350 deaths in Broward County. We in Palm Beach County, Miami-Dade, and Broward County control about 60%, or account for about 60% of the cases of coronavirus, as well as the deaths.
Wow, that's a lot. So I'm concerned about the push for the second phase of reopening, and I know it's such a catch-22, because we were just talking about business, and I understand, it's business, it's jobs, right? But then it's health and it's people, and you guys as leaders have such a difficult job to balance the two. Rita, I don't know if you want to chime in at all on that.
Yeah, nobody's planned for this. This is a huge challenge for all of us. And what I've seen on the business side is there've been a lot of companies have done a really good job pivoting and taking care of their employees, and actually, making adjustments, letting them work at home, buying them equipment, and so on. And I fondly say that in the future, I think employees are going to be asking during employment interviews whether or not the company took care of them. And then I think at the same time, there have been some companies that haven't taken it as serious, maybe because the level of employee or whatever it happens to be, and shame on them. So I would highly encourage all companies, take this to heart. This is a really tough time. Use your influence to make sure your employees are informed, make good choices, and first and foremost, keep safety as number one, above profit. Safety as number one.
Absolutely. And our frontline workers, the people who can't work from home, which are often, your lower income people who are working on the front line, they're delivery people, they're cashiers, they're stockers, whoever it is. Yeah. They don't have the fortunateness that we have to be able to work from home from our computers. They still got to go out and make a living. And I hope that companies are making sure that they're protected, while they're out there, because I don't know, it's just a sad state of affairs all the way around. Yeah. So anything else you want to add to that, Senator Powell? Because we're going to dive right into, the next biggest topic at hand, which is race relations and police brutality. Anything else you want to add to COVID-19?
No, I don't want to add anything further, and then we can jump into this topic as I have to prepare to go into my meeting with the county administrator in just a moment. So let's do it.
Absolutely. So we know that there's been protests all over the country, protests all over our state and our county. Yesterday, there was, looks like a really good rally and protest in Riviera Beach with several Black organizations. Loved seeing the unity there. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it, but it was just a beautiful scene. But unfortunately, we shouldn't have to have those scenes for the purpose of what it's for. And I know on another call earlier this week with you, Senator Powell, you mentioned some legislation that you and our legislators are proposing. And I just wanted you to be able to share with our listeners what's happening, what's being proposed for the upcoming session. Is there going to be a special session or anything like that?
There will not be a special session. What is being proposed is there's a number of different policies and pieces of legislation that are being looked at. We have put some language in drafting. My office has specifically. We'll be working with House members as well as trying to work with the governor's office and allies, including law enforcement, to look at some of these policies and change them. We're very concerned with the use of chokeholds, the use of excessive force. We're concerned with regard to data in terms of finding out that an officer has had several complaints filed against him or her over a certain time period. We are also looking at the use of the pepper sprays and how to deal with that. As a journalist, or when I was in journalism school, J school, back in the early 2000s, we understood that the First Amendment said that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble to petition government for redress of grievances. The key words there being freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right of the people to petition government for redress of grievances, peaceably assemble, peaceably. And we've seen cases where people have peacefully assembled and they've been hit with tear gas, they've been shot with rubber bullets. That's unconscionable. The fact that it has happened at the national level in Washington, D.C., but even more so, we have to look at our own backyard here in the city of West Palm Beach, where we know that protesters who were peacefully standing right here on Clematis Street were shot with rubber bullets and tear gas by police officers, and that should never happen in this country.
Absolutely. So what are some of the specific legislation that you guys are proposing in any new bills for the next session?
Well, here's the thing. We don't go back into session until March. As legislators, we're not going to have a special session. We don't even go back to Tallahassee until November. So some of the proposals that we've drafted and we put into bill drafting and that we're working on will come out in terms of some of those variables that I just discussed with you, the ban of chokeholds, following the data with regard to how many times someone has been reprimanded and what that looks like, having a report maybe go to the governor, the Speaker of the House, and the Senate President, excessive use of force, all the different variables related to excessive use of force, and just having the ability to maybe have citizen review boards. What does that look like? And that's what the meeting will be back about in a few minutes that I have to jump into. But those are the things that have been put in terms of policy. Senator Bracy has also put in some policies, and we're working at the Florida Legislative Black Caucus to work with the Democratic Caucus to push this in terms of making sure that there are changes policy-wise. Now, also locally, your local governments, they also have police forces that people can go and demand changes there. We would like to see citizen review boards. We would like to see some of these complaints that happen. You have an investigation where the one department, the police department investigates itself. And I've reported that I was harassed by police before and they've never found anything. It's been a couple times that happened to me, once in Tallahassee, once down here. But my complaint fell on deaf ears as they did an internal investigation. And you know, when they do internal investigations, they usually don't find anything.
Yeah. So I know one of the things that you said probably can't be legislated. And I remember having a conversation just a few days ago with an officer about, kind of like the whole text messaging campaign that started with the students. If you see something, say something. And one of the things he said to me was, we'd love to speak up, and most of us are, but there are some who, if they're new and the other officer is seasoned, they're afraid that there may be some retaliation. If that can't be legislated where policies can be put in place where an officer is not retaliated against for speaking up, does that then maybe fall on a citizens board? How do we as a community support officers that want to do the right thing, that want to speak up, that want to make sure their fellow officers are not doing things that are going to kill someone or that's unethical or whatever the case is?
Well, we all have a moral compass that we have to deal with. It's very easy, Ann Marie. Les Brown talks about the story of breakfast. And when we talk about the story of breakfast and what you're willing to do, he talks about bacon and eggs, right? And when you talk about bacon and eggs, the pig had to give up everything, but the chicken only had to give up the egg. The pig had to give it all up. So if you're going to do the right thing and be of good moral standards and good moral character and serve on a police force where your idea is to protect and serve, at some point when you see someone doing something wrong, whether you are new to the force or you're a veteran, you got to be willing to give it all up if you think something's wrong. That's the kind of people that we need to see, the leadership that we deserve here in the state of Florida.
And if they're not there, then what do we do? If they don't have a moral compass, we know some people don't have a moral compass. That's just what it is. So what happens?
Then we activate, right? Like Will Smith said, racism and police brutality is not getting started, it's getting recorded. So if they're not going to do what's right, we continue to record and we continue to be active, or we can be complacent. We've seen a lot of complacency over the years where people have seen things happen. They don't go to the city council chambers. They don't go to the county commission chambers. They just say, well, nothing's going to change, and they can complain. We can complain inside of our communities, inside of our silos, and say, well, ain't nobody gonna do nothing. Ain't nothing gonna happen. Nobody's gonna say anything, but it starts with you. Anytime you point one finger at someone else, 4 fingers are pointing back at you.
No, I agree. Well, I know you have to run, Senator Powell. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us this afternoon. Please continue to work hard for the people. Please keep us posted. Let us know how we can get involved and support the efforts that you're pushing through.
Thank you so kindly. Continue to do great work. I'm so proud to be here. Rita, have a good day, as well as Ann Marie. See you all soon. And thank everybody for watching.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thanks. So Rita, what are your thoughts on some of the measures that, the removal of the chokehold, the Citizens Review Board? What are your thoughts on some of these measures that are going to be pushed through, hopefully, in the coming months?
I have a couple of thoughts when I was listening to Senator Powell, who I happen to admire and known for a long time. A couple of things struck me. Years ago, I was on a hospital board, and of any organization now, as also with law enforcement, you have to make sure you have a culture that's not based on fear. So can you imagine in a hospital, if there was a culture of fear and let's say I was a doctor and I saw somebody do something inappropriate and didn't speak up, that person could die, right? And so I do know from my experience on the hospital that they work very, very hard to make sure they don't have a culture of fear. So that requires putting systems in place from the top on down that encourage people to speak up without fear of retaliation. You mentioned up front, I've trained over 100,000 people in anti-discrimination, and I always ask, if it's management, non-management, doesn't matter. I always say, why don't you speak up? And they always say, I'm afraid I'll be retaliated against. I like that person. I don't want him to get fired. I've seen people speak up, nothing happened before. Why should I? So everybody always says the same thing. So I think people need to be encouraged to speak up. When it comes to law enforcement, first I have to give a shout out to Palm Beach County, because I think Senator Powell, others, you certainly have played a role, have really done a good job over the years of trying to have community conversations. And I want to talk a lot more about that.
Okay.
I think we have a lot of great law enforcement leaders here who are understanding, who listen, and don't shut down. We had the experience with Corey in the North End, and there was peaceful demonstrations, and it was so heartfelt. So I really think that we have a lot of great law enforcement people who are just dying in their hearts when they saw what happened. Now, having said that, are there bad or are there people that are not doing appropriate things? Yep. Just like they are in every other field. But yes, let's just talk about police at this time. So I do think that it's incumbent upon every law enforcement agency, just as business as well, to look at your policies and procedures and say, okay, you start with the why.
Right.
Why are we doing this? And what's the impact of this? Is there a better way to do this? Are we equipped to do this? Do we need to change the training that we have provided? Have we engaged people who might be different than us in conversations to find out how they're feeling about it? So I think those kinds of conversations need to happen. I think we should work together to, Stephen Covey always said, try to understand, then be understood, to find out what can we change that will enable us to still do what we want to do, and that's to create a great community that works for everybody.
I agree with you. And I think, so a couple of things. One, yes, Palm Beach County overall has done a really good job. We have several different law enforcement agencies at a municipal level and at the county level with the sheriff office. And so I think overall, and like you, I was a major part of the initial protest for Corey Jones, God rest his soul. And there is an announcement I want to make about that, where one of his family members sent me a bill, the Corey Jones bill, that they're petitioning to be passed in Congress. So we want to make sure we make a push for that as well, and not forget that we had our own tragedy here in Palm Beach County, and we don't want to forget an innocent life that was lost, that of Corey Jones, in that. But I will say, starting from the top is so important, because whether it's police brutality or just complete unethical doings or whatever, one of the things, and is not to try to just be calling somebody out, but I know that our sheriff office, for example, for years our sheriff has stood by officers and literally said, well, basically, we didn't find officer doing anything wrong, or we didn't see that as I forget the right terminology, but where the officers were basically cleared when there was wrongdoing, when there was, officer involved shooting or officer involved death of some people. There's a gentleman who had sued, who is now paralyzed, but those officers were never held accountable. And the leader at the top did not hold them accountable. And because of the position of power, right, and the many supporters that the leader has, it's like there are people who are afraid to hold the leader at the top accountable. And I know we do that with an election, of course, but outside of an election, how do we as a community, because there's some communities, really, and I'll be frank with you, I work in multiple counties. There's some communities where it's a people-powered community, and there's some community where it's a politician-powered community, right? And Palm Beach County, what I find, and I've been in politics for a while, we're like that cross between the two. We're like a little balance. We're not totally people-poweed, if you want me to be frank. Versus like our neighbor in Broward, they're very people-powered. Like the people, no, we don't want you. We're going to vote you out, period. It's done, right? Yeah. Miami is a little more politician-powered, if you ask me. Those are my opinions. But I think that we as people have to recognize our power, our power of our vote, our power of our protest, our power of our dollars, in that we have to hold leaders accountable. and not let these incidents just be swept under the rug. It's unacceptable. That's the only way we're going to be better.
Yeah, here's what I think needs to happen. When I teach diversity, a couple of things I like to talk about is going from awareness to acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually draw an inverted bell curve. And I said, okay, what gets in the way? And I asked groups, and it's always stereotypes, programming, prejudices, whatever. And so we have to work around or work under, work through, so we can go from awareness to understanding to celebration and appreciation. Mm-hmm. So unless we have uncomfortable conversations, we're not going to move forward. Okay. Right. So the example you just gave, I think right now we have a tremendous opportunity. This is a global effort now, but I think we have a tremendous opportunity that we have to seize, that we have to say, okay, we got to do something different. We need to engage in uncomfortable conversations. And I'll tell you a perfect example. So my son will be 30 this year, one of my best friends. We've been friends for over 30 years. African-American. She and I teach diversity together. We speak together, etc. Her son's almost the same age, because a year younger. So ever since they were knee high, we'd share stories. And I remember talking about, going to Toys R Us. She goes, oh, I'm going to Toys R Us, and I got to tell my son to leave his toy in the car. I said, why? Goes, oh, no, he'd probably be perceived as stealing the toy. I said, really? She goes, oh, no. And of course, he can't walk away from me in the store because that would be bad too. And she would enlighten me. And she goes, okay, now I'm getting older. I got to teach him about the N word. And I said, what? I mean, things like I'm going, really? And so through my life, and then through the diversity of friends I've had, there's even conversations where you go, wow. And these microaggressions and these inappropriate comments and gestures that people experience have got to be discussed. Now, I don't know what it's like to be Black. I will never, ever, ever know what it's like to be Black. Mm-hmm. I know what it's like to be female and one of the only females on a leadership team. I know what it's like to see good old boys use their power in an inappropriate way or sexual harassment. So I know those things. But what I come to know about those is a lot of times those are situational. It's at a meeting and it's over, or it's at a project and it's over. But speaking to my friends of color, I've learned that it's 24/7. It's worried about how am I dressed? How am I showing up? Who am I standing next to? Am I saying the right words? Am I wearing the right brand? 24/7. That's exhausting to feel like you're constantly being judged. And I don't think people understand, because I've heard people tell me in classes and so on, oh, they're just getting hypersensitive. That's so ridiculous. It was that one little thing. Well, in their mind, it might have been that one little thing, but it wasn't. It was a buildup of things. And so until we get in a room and have these conversations where I think we need to hear the stories, the pain that I think we've all heard, pulling over, and by the police, or making assumptions like you're not a doctor, are you? Oh my gosh, you couldn't be a doctor. You're a person of color, things like that. Or people calling somebody, oh, that's a Black doctor, and saying that's a doctor. Why do you have to add that adjective? Mm-hmm. So we have to have those conversations about the experience, the real raw experiences that people have had and how it made them feel.
Yeah.
So we can then open up and examine our own feelings about how we feel about certain things. I lost track of how many people told me I didn't know people, let's say, who were Black were different until I went away to college because of my programming or what I saw on TV. We all need to be the police of media. I mean, if you were a Martian and came down today and watched the media without sound, what do you think they would think about you versus me? Ann Marie?
Well, number one, I mean, and I live this every day, like you said, and sometimes it does feel exhausting to always have to be on when I go out or when I present myself, even on camera now.
Mhm.
I've heard things like, oh my God, you're so articulate. And I'm sure, Rita, you probably, I don't know how many times have someone said that you're articulate. How many times have you been told that?
Not too many.
Right. But here it is. I can
Yeah.
count probably on two hands
Mhm.
where I've been told in numerous rooms, numerous situations, wow, you're
Yeah.
so articulate, especially
Yeah.
if I say to people from this area that's familiar with the glaze that says, oh, and I say, yeah, I grew up in Pahokee proudly. I wear Pahokee. I'm Pahokee's pride. I wear
Yeah.
Pahokee proudly. But when I say that to certain people in certain rooms, I get, oh, you don't look like, or you don't talk like, or you don't act like you grew up in Pahokee. And I'm like, well, what is that? What does that look like, act like, talk like? Well,
Yeah.
you're so articulate. Well, what does that mean? How else am I supposed to be? And so
Yeah, so turn that around. You turn that around, and just
yeah,
like you did is great. It's like, so what is that supposed to look like? You go,
exactly.
wait a minute.
I'm not
So
sure
what do you
what
mean I
that
don't look
means.
blank?
Yeah, because there's this perception of if I'm from a certain place or
Mhm.
I should speak a certain way. And it's like, are you serious? There are amazing people who live in and are from the Glades community. So
Yeah.
what are you trying to say? Or I walk in a room and, I've bidded on contracts where,
Mhm.
our firm was the only minority firm to bid on a contract.
Yeah.
And we have to I've been taught, and every time I step out the door, and I have a majority Black staff,
Mhm.
so I didn't have to tell my staff everything we do, which we should anyways.
Yeah.
But it always feels like we have to be 2, 3, 4 times better. We have to be 10 steps ahead. This is the constant conversation that I have to have with my team
Mhm.
to say, hey guys, because guess what? And it feels like, oh, we're just privileged to have this opportunity. No,
Mhm.
we're
Mhm.
smart, we're
Yeah.
talented, we're innovative, we're creative. We should have this opportunity.
Yeah, and I think once you reach a level like you have, and you're a well-known community leader, and your brand mosaic and so on, I think comes with that comes this huge responsibility to not screw up, right?
Right.
I felt that as a woman, and women will tell you, women who made it to the top, like, you know what, we finally got here, we can't mess up. So I think that is a reality. But again, I think it's sharing those stories so people understand and appreciate what it's like to be different, and not be the majority. When I train, I always say IBI. And I say, you know what? The first I is intent. I don't care what your intention is. If I call you out on something, you're going to say, I didn't have bad intentions. Everybody says that. So
Yeah.
I would say the B is behavior. I really care about your behavior because of the impact. And so I think right now, we need to have really engaging conversations. And you know what? It's not going to be perfect, right? And I think they're conversations withholding judgment.
Yeah.
And it's not, you didn't say that right, you used the wrong term, whatever. Let's just try to have a conversation. Let's put the judgment away and see if we can better understand each other so we can move forward. And if there's an ouch, say ouch.
Yeah.
I teach people that all the time. If somebody's talking to you and they say or do something offensive, it might be their nonverbal communication. Just say ouch and use that opportunity to say, wait, why was that an ouch? What did I do? What did I say?
Right.
So that you can help me understand. Maybe there's a term I used, or the way I look at you, or a little, an adjective I put in there, or an assumption I made that I didn't have bad intentions. But nevertheless, it was hurtful. I think another thing too is sometimes people feel that because of their difference, they can make jokes or inappropriate comments because they're the brunt of it. And that's not right either, because then people will repeat them and think it's okay because somebody else said it. So I think we have to police ourselves and do a lot of introspection. If you see somebody do or say something inappropriate, do you stop them? Or you just snicker and go, oh, I didn't hear it, and walk away?
Right.
You have to be that person that has the guts that say, you know what, that was an inappropriate comment. And I'll tell you one that happened when I chaired the Civil Rights Commission. We had an issue in Miami, in Liberty City. And we had a whole group of people came together, and one of the attorneys came from Kansas. He was African-American. And when in the middle of the meeting, he goes, it's something about you people. And we all went, wait a second, what? And he said, what's the matter? We said, well, that's a highly offensive, term, to use. And he said, really? I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that with me. Now, we could have just not said anything. And it was a very diverse group of people in the room. We could have just not said a word and left thinking that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's an attorney for the EEOC. He should know this stuff. But it was one of those teachable moments. And we all need to be open to those teachable moments. We all need to do a better job of hanging around people who are different. Here's one thing I've seen a lot of, Ann Marie, and of course, this is your business, PR publication, and you're so brilliant at it. So here's what I've seen in recent weeks, certainly the last 10 days, a lot of organizations are writing letters about, I feel your pain, and I'm celebrating Black Lives Matter, and I'm with you, and, we're going to do this together. And I wonder how many of them have plans.
Right.
You could say, I feel your pain, and I support you, and I'm going to give you $1 million and all this. But if I could turn the camera around and look into your company, and I looked at your board, and I looked at your C-suite, and I looked at your committees, and I looked at your vendors, and I looked at the community events that you're buying tables of 10 for or writing checks for, are they in fact diverse? Or are you just giving me lip service with this nice memo? So this is a great opportune time. If you want to write that memo, I hope you have something to follow up with to show you really, truly mean it. We're a work in progress. We're all a work in progress.
Yeah.
But I think that next step of having a plan, just make those plans.
Well, and I agree. And I will say to our Black community, mm-hmm. for those companies, those brands that are putting these statements out saying that they support Black Lives Matter and they support this movement and they support the protests and all these different things that everyone is suddenly supporting. And I believe some of it's genuine. And then I believe, I'm in marketing and PR. Some of it is marketing and PR, right? It's a great thing to do right now. But like you said, what I would request, and I ask, just like we can hold political folks accountable with our vote in the voting box, which we're going to get to that in a minute, we need to hold corporations accountable. Yeah. And it's so the Black buying power is I forget the exact number, but it's a huge buying power, $1 billion or $1 trillion. I'm sorry. It's a huge number, right? And so we're huge consumers of a lot of products, a lot of services. You're going to say that you support this initiative. Like you said, I want to see Black leadership. I want to see Black leadership on your board. I want to see Black leadership in your C-suite. I want to see that Black leaders and Black people that work for your company is getting paid equally to their counterparts. I want to see that you're spending dollars on Black initiatives, Black nonprofits in the Black community, helping different efforts, whether it's housing, healthcare, access to food, whatever it may be, that you're a part of these initiatives and you're not just putting up a corporate statement that sounds good. And then we talk about supply diversity, Rita. Oh, I really want to get into supply diversity, how every corporate company hires a Black person to lead supply diversity, or a woman, right? One or two, Black person or woman that leads supply diversity. But when you go look at how much they actually spend with Black companies, women-owned companies, minority companies, it's literally less than 10%, if that. Yeah. So start spending those dollars with Black companies.
Yeah, I think what companies need to be deliberate. Companies need to, we live in a very diverse area, South Florida, obviously. It's very diverse. So companies need to take a look at it. Look at your customer base. Look at the people in the community. Look at who you're serving. and be deliberate about doing a better job and being inclusive. Some of them are doing a good job. Let's face it. Some have, I believe, pure motivation, and I think they're doing a good job. But I think we have a long way to go. I've seen, I've been doing this a long time, and you know that.
I know.
I didn't have white hair when I started. But it's been a long time, and we're still talking about the same things. And companies just really need to get serious about it from the very top. And doing audits about, the employment practices. There's still a lot of people that look at an applicant and go, oh, that looks like me when I was your age. Well, usually it's probably going to look like you too. Where you grew up, and then when you go to give raises, and oh my gosh, you're same school I went to, whatever. So we got to look at and make sure that we're being inclusive. Nobody's talking about lowering standards. Everybody's always saying that. That's not it at all. We also got to get out of the business of picking the same 10 people who are black and moving them from this board to that board to this board to that board. There's so many incredibly talented people, especially in our community, who, if given the chance, could make such a huge difference. And I agree. I just think we got to get to the point where we're off this conversation and into action, not off the conversation, but into action, moving into having deliberate conversations, painful conversations, and then having action plans put in place. And then ultimately seeing results.
Absolutely. So I like what you said. I think if we should put all that together and then send it as a compact to these different organizations that's making these statements.
Yeah. One thing, when you're in the coronavirus, one of the positives, I think everybody's house is spotless. I tell you, if I clean my house one more time, oh my Lord. I was looking through some old stuff. You know how you do that when you're in your house? So this from 19, whatever. So anyway, I was in high school. I can't believe I saved this. This is so fun because I just found it yesterday. You can tell it's yellow with age. So, so I was nominated as a possible candidate for a Florida Girls State, a program of the American Legion Auxiliary. So you go to Tallahassee and understand government, which was the only class ever in my life. I'm admitting this live. I can't believe it. That got a D because I was an AB student. But I just I told them I just didn't get it. So I was really bad at it. But anyway, part of this process said you have to do a 3-minute speech on what I'll benefit if I get selected. So can I very quickly read this? I can't believe I saved the index card. This is my first big speech. and so truth be told, Ann Marie, because you're a dear friend, this is 49 years old. Okay.
Wow.
This letter is dated March 23rd, 1971. So 50 years next year. Here's what a kid said in high school. For many years, our country has been fighting for a long, hard war, but why? Why is there war? Why is there poverty? Why is there disease? Why is there hate? Why are there killings? We ask ourselves that question, but do we do anything, and what can we do? Starting at the high school level, we need to know about our government because the future lies ahead of us. We need to know about and understand, underlined, our government so that we can better our future. We all, do all these terrible incidents have to happen? No, not if we learn to have a say in our government. I personally don't know much about our government, but I do, so I can do all I can to make the world a better place. We must start our improvement campaign with ourselves. Learn to love, understand, and respect one another. If we learn to appreciate what we have before we lose it, we can further understand the problems of the world. Every day, you can pick up a newspaper and read, "Dear so-and-so, I have a problem with my boyfriend," etc. This has an effect on that person's future. So-and-so can't live with this one, perhaps, but in the future, what happens? If she can't learn to get along with one person because of a small hangup, what is she going to do, and hundreds others like her going to do when the problem was with their community or neighbors? We have to start out loving each other while we are young and to learn to appreciate what we have before it's too late. It's a great opportunity to me to be able to meet people from different walks of life And I think it has a great effect on a person's life. Since I have 10 brothers and sisters, like Charlene, Bruce, Rhonda, Rita, and Ronnie, Roy, I seem to find it easy to start a conversation and talk to people. I guess this is because I'm constantly around them. But no matter how large or small your family is, you have to be able to live with all types of people. I think Girl State would be a fantastic experience for any girl to be able to meet girls from different viewpoints on subjects and having the same goal, to improve our country and learn about our government. Thank you, Rita Barreto, Miami Senior High School.
Wow.
That is 50 years old. I could give this today, couldn't I?
You could. It could be the same entire speech today. Yeah. And that's very telling that, yes, we've come a long ways, but we still have so far to go. And the fact that we have not made as much progress as we should have is very disheartening. The fact that we have to still continue to fight for equity. Yeah. And I think, there's equality. Yeah. And then there's the equity conversation, and this is so much deeper. And I hadn't spoke out much because I just really had to kind of just look within before saying a whole lot, because I feel like we've been here so many times, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Philander Castro. So there's so many others. Sandra Bland. We've been here. We've done the marches. I've done the marches. I've done the protests. I've done, again, our very own Corey Jones. And I feel like we've, I know this time hopefully is different because we have so many more people who are, and maybe because of coronavirus, because you're home and you can take a little more time to look within. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But I hope this time is really different. But the fact that we've been down this road, even before my generation, your generation, we've been down this road so many times. And it's so many things that's so much deeper than police brutality. It's affordable housing, which we deal with these issues on a regular basis. And I'm blessed enough, I guess, that's a part of the blessing. But the bitter side of it is that I work on these community issues daily, from gun violence to homelessness to affordable housing, education opportunities. So if you did get to high school and now you want to go to college, some people can't pay for that. Some people don't have the access to that. Access to healthcare. Yeah. Reason why we have so many people, especially in the African American community, that are dying is more than likely because of access to good healthcare, access to doctors, access to good food. We have communities that literally have food deserts, that don't have a good grocery store to go to get fresh produce or affordable produce. There's so many layers to this, Rita. And we
have to look at the whole ecosystem of this issue. And I think, I think when President Obama was in office, I think people said, okay, we did it. We got the top job. And I think, I'll be honest, I think some people might have thought, okay, well, now we've done it. We've arrived. And I think some I've seen got lax. And now I think because of this, and there's always opportunities when you have this kind of thing going on, and it's how we react to it. So it's really incumbent upon every organization. And there are a lot of good ones out there that are doing great things. There are a lot of organizations that have messed up royalty. They've taken responsibility and they've come back just the best. We've seen them do that. So it's a challenge. It's a call to action for companies to be transparent, and whether it's for profit, not for profit, to look at, what are our employment processes looking like? What kind of policies do we have? Do we have our communications department really showing diverse people, or are they in stereotypical roles? What are we doing on our website? I'm still mind boggled when I go to a lot of company websites and you see all same people, and you go, wow, so you have to look at the whole ecosystem of this issue. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to change overnight. But I think if we engage in these very real painful conversations, and agree that out of that, we will make commitments to learn, understand, change, support, moving forward, then I think we'll see a big difference. I do. And the neat thing is, I mentioned my son will be 30 this year. Younger people grew up with, much more inclusive. Like I remember my son when he was in fifth grade, diversity was like a word in the book. When I was actually the diversity manager, I said, what will I do? They said, we have no idea. I said, perfect. I love that kind of job. I'll create it. I love creating something from nothing, but nobody knew. Where now I think younger people are much more into, why are you guys not getting along now? I think they're much more with it in a beautiful way. I think that's great. And so there's a lot we can learn from different generations. We got to get away from saying all baby boomers are this way or all whatever or that way. Nobody likes to be stereotyped. I don't know any group that likes to be stereotyped. So again, I think it's awareness, it's understanding, it's commitment, and it's I like to say we tolerate what we believe.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you made some good points of, us being able to have these conversations. They're not always comfortable. And I think we have to look at all sides, because I can't sit here and say that I've never said anything inappropriate or never said anything stereotypical about another group of people. I would be like telling a big fib right now. But it does make you, but do I try my best to make sure that I'm not doing that? But have I been in environments where it's like, oh, that's my girlfriend, we joke about it, but looking back, it's like, okay, well, how did I really make her feel?
Yeah.
Or did she think about how she made me feel when she made the Black stereotype joke, So even, I was on a call, was it yesterday? Today's Friday, Wednesday, with the board that I'm on, and we had a interactive training about racial microaggressions. And it was a video, and it gave different scenarios, and then we had to pause and kind of talk about what we saw that was wrong in that. And it literally just about every video that they showed, I've experienced it. One was a woman sitting there with her coworker, and she was saying, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed with work. And the coworker kind of disregarded what she said. It was like, oh my God, your hair is so cute. I love your braids. And, oh, is this real? Like reached out, touched, is this real? And she's like, why are you touching my hair?
Yeah.
And the coworker didn't see anything wrong with it. It was another coworker on the corrective side of it when we had to go back, was like, oh, well, did you think that you may have invaded her personal space? Oh, I didn't. Yeah. By touching her hair without permission, or asking if it's real, like as if, Black women can't have real long hair, so it's little things like that we have to all make sure that we're conscious of. And it's not to say that we have to now be on pins and needles, because I don't think anyone wants to walk around on pins and needles and is afraid to say something, because we do live in that politically correct environment now. So nobody has to be on pins and needles, but I think that, like you said, we have to kind of take a look within and say, okay, wait, before I say this or before I do this action, like, I've had people try to touch my head. Oh my God, your head up. Don't touch my head. I didn't give you permission to do that.
Well, you're absolutely you're absolutely right. I mean, and somebody might listen to that and go, "Boy, that's hypersensitive." But no. They don't understand it's not a one-time event. It's that drip, drip, drip.
Yeah,
drip.
The tone. My tone is too. Your tone is so strong, it's aggressive, or your facial expression seems that you're upset, or I might just be thinking, that might be my thinking face,
I was reading an article, I think it was yesterday, and this woman, a young girl, just got into Harvard, African-American, got into Harvard, and she went to one of the shipping places, and a gentleman in front of her, another student, he was getting into Vanderbilt or someplace, and the guy said, "Oh, Vanderbilt, that's so cool." And so she stepped up and she said, well, he said, "Well, where are you going?" She goes, "Harvard." He goes, "You mean the one in Massachusetts?" And she goes, "Yeah." And then she proceeded in the article to say, like 3 times in the same day, people said, "You mean the one in Massachusetts?" Like, yes. You know,
Right.
so it was like you were given that example a little while ago. You know, people like, you know, question your background or your skills and so on. And I don't think people always, I think sometimes people, have motivation to be mean, nasty, and ugly. And, you know, I've always said there's not a shortage of people doing inappropriate, stupid things at work. They do. And there's no law and there's no policy that's going to stop it. However, if the company strictly prohibits those kinds of things and takes immediate action to appropriately investigate and takes action based upon that investigation to ensure it doesn't happen again, whether it's changing the people or changing the people, you have to do it. You can't say, oh, that's Joe or that's Susie. No, that doesn't work. You know, and it doesn't matter if they're the top rainmaker or they've been there the longest. You know, everybody has a right to work in an environment free from all forms of discrimination. Everybody has a right to be treated with dignity and respect. We're all a work in progress. You know, we all have prejudiced bones in our body. Not necessarily about race. It could be you don't like people with white hair or tattoos or earrings in their nose, whatever.
I love your white hair though, Rita. I mean, it's always been like the bomb.
I didn't even have to do Corona for that. It just did it.
It just did it.
98. She has more black hair than I do, and I told her I wanted a rebate. But no, I think you know, I think we have to say, you know what, if you have prejudiced bones in your body, leave them at the door. You know, like figure it out. And what are you teaching kids? We don't come on this planet that way. So, you know, years ago, it was, you know, 64, Civil Rights Act, 64. That's when it was passed. And, you know, a lot of people are talking about Martin Luther King. And, you know, I've shown his I Have a Dream speech so many times, I think I know it by heart. And, you know, when you think about Dr. King, who was such a peaceful person, and they didn't expect him to be, you know, when they had the march, you know, all the non-necessary surgeries were canceled. Law enforcement was brought in. They just knew the place was going to be burned down. President Kennedy, I don't think, signed the release for a march. You know, everybody panicked. And it was a beautiful thing. And he gave what has been called still today the most passionate speech of the 20th century. Because, you know, he was speaking from the art, and he painted a picture, and he didn't leave anybody in the audience out. He certainly challenged all of this. And I just think we have a tremendous opportunity right now to self-reflect on our, you know, look at ourselves.
Absolutely.
Look at who we're hanging out with. What are we teaching our kids? You know, speaking up at work and saying, wait a second now, you know, this is good. We're sending this letter, but who's in the C-suite? How do we change the C-suite? How do we change that committee over there? How come that person of color is always in that diversity job? And we used to talk about that all the time in 1990 was when I became a long time ago. And it was either a woman or a person of color. Right. I said, you know everything there was because you're, quote, different.
It's now fixed now because you put, you know, someone different there. But yeah. I want to say that for our listeners and anyone who listens to this after we're done recording, you know, I co-sign what you said about just looking within. But what I also want people to do is to take time to be open and have an open mind to just get to know people of another culture. As a Black woman, we're not much different at the end of the day. I'm a human first. Okay. We are human first. We all bleed red blood, right? We all want the same things. I was watching an interview with Charles Barkley, this attorney, and the gentleman who started the alt-right movement, right? And the attorney said to the guy, I think I sent you the video where, you know, the guy was like, they're doing what they're doing because it's an identity crisis for white men in America. They don't want to be the minority, right? As it's predicted in 50 years. Yeah. Great. We understand. But one of the things that stood out to me was when the gentleman said, listen, we want the same thing: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Mhm.
And we want to live a good life. We want to be comfortable. We want to raise our families. We want to be able to go about freely. We want to be able to go to the beach. We want to be able to go to the store. We want to be able to drive in our cars and not be profiled and over. We want literally the same comfort that someone else will have that don't have my skin color. We don't. It's not much different here, guys. Like literally, we just want to be treated the same way, and we're not asking. This is our God-given right to be treated fairly. Period.
And
we're tired of asking, to be frank.
And you bring up a good point. I've over the years done countless workshops or focus groups with different groups of people, whether Black, white, male, female, children, no children, divorced, married, whatever. And at the end of the day, I found just what you said. Every group wanted the same thing. The working moms were saying, I want people to quit saying I'm not committed because I leave right at 5 because it's $10 a minute. I'm late at daycare. So I'm tired of hearing that. And then this other group would say, I'm tired of married people, or I'm tired of married people thinking I'm single and I got all the money in the world and I'm just having a good old time. Or I'm tired of disability people saying, they all think I'm driving their healthcare costs. Everybody had something that was painful and stereotypical and ill-informed. But at the end of the day, what struck me repeatedly from as many as I've ever done, people said the same thing. They wanted to be treated dignity with respect as a professional. And so we all want the same things. And it's a matter of listening, understanding, not grouping everybody together. Not like, as I was saying earlier, not all of any group is bad. There's bad in every group. We just got to figure out, how do we take this? And it can't just be at this level. It starts here, our circle of friends, and then it starts with our companies. Everybody plays a role.
Absolutely.
In doing it. And I think if we get that together, just as companies have in the past, safety is number one priority or quality is number one. If we say building a workplace that works for everybody, where everyone is treated with dignity and respect is truly what we're about, then that's when you'll see things change, because people will be hired for that. People will be promoted for that. They'll be terminated for lack of that. And that's the kind of systematic change we need to have if we're going to move forward.
Absolutely, because if that work is where we spend the majority of our time. So if workplace cultures are transformed, then it'll slowly start to transform into our communities, and our communities have to have those same mindsets as well. Which brings me, we have a few more minutes, and I want to go into just 2020 elections. It is an election year, a big election year. I want to, first thing is August. August. I should know the date.
Ann Marie.
I know.
Holy moly. You should have a vested interest in that date.
I know. Why am I not? Why is August? What is it? August
28th, is it? No,
it's not the 28th. I want to say it's the 24th.
Okay.
August 18th. Oh my God.
August
18th. Yes. So listen, every day since coronavirus started has been just another day. So I'm trying to keep up, right?
What is today? Someday, other day, I don't know day. Yeah.
It's Friday something, the 12th, yes. So August 18th is our next election throughout the state. These are county elections. We will be electing our constitutional officers. So I believe today Dorothy Jacks just qualified, and she does not have an opponent for property appraiser. Shout out to Dorothy Jacks, my good friend. Good for her. But we still have, we have the clerk of courts. I'm sorry. The sheriff is up for re-election. We have several county commissioners that are up for re-election. There are, let me see what else, school board members that are up for election or new seats that are going to be available. So if you do not know your candidates, today was the last day for qualifying for several of the elections, both for November and August. So if you go to the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections website, you'll be able to see, if you look under 2020, if you go to candidates and then look under announced 2020 candidates, you will see who is running, and it's going to be on the ballot for August, and who's going to be on the ballot for November. So for August 18th election, if you're not registered to vote, if you have changed your address because you moved or one of your family members moved and they've changed their address, please make sure you update your voter registration or get people registered to vote if they're not registered to vote. You know, anybody that is over 18 or 18 and not registered to vote, make sure you register them to vote before July 20th. So the last day to register to vote for the August election is July 20th. The last day to register to vote for the November election is October 5th. So those are critical dates for voter registration or updating your voter registration. So I have qualified to so I am your candidate for Palm Beach Soil and Water Conservation District Seat 3, which will be on the November 3rd ballot. So I do have an opponent as of yesterday, which now means that I got to actually really run a campaign. Like, I'm going to have to really get your vote and your support and your donations. And I did not start a campaign before because I really wanted to see if I was going to have an opponent, because I believe that it's important, especially in these times, that I wanted to be able to throw my support and time and energy and any money that I would have raised, not take that away from other candidates who's going to need the help. However, now I have to actually raise money and do all of that. So, but I still will be supporting our other candidates. On the ticket, I am a Democrat, so. So yes, I do want to make sure that people have those dates, that July 20th, last date to register to vote and update. Make sure you also request your vote by mail ballots. You can put a request in and get your ballot for both August and November with just one registration online. So you can go online. It takes literally like 2 minutes to sign up to vote by mail. They'll send you your ballot. I believe per Virginia Baker yesterday, they're actually going to give you self-addressed stamped ballots. So that way you don't have to pay for postage. You can just mail it back in and not have to worry about the postage fee. So there's no excuse not to vote in August and November. Why is this election important? When we're talking about issues like we're talking about today, whether it's COVID-19, right? Look at, and I'm not going to call nobody out. Y'all read the newspaper, read your Palm Beach Post, watch, but more importantly than the media, watch your city and county government meetings. If you cannot attend in person, those meetings are happening virtually. On Tuesdays at 9:30 a.m., I believe it's every other Tuesday, Palm Beach County Commissioners have their meeting. The school board members have their meeting, I forget what evening, every month. So every municipality has a different day for their city commission meetings, their county commission meetings, school board member meetings. Watch those meetings. You can watch them online. Some of you have the public access networks where you can watch them on your TV, TV 18, TV 20 for the county. Watch them. See how our local officials are making decisions, and how these decisions are impacting you and your family. And then you make the appropriate decision in the ballot box.
Yeah.
Look at their voting records.
Mm-hmm.
Look at their decision-making records.
Yeah.
Look at their policy records, right? Look at the response of COVID-19. Is it in your favor? Is it not? That's how you make these decisions, people. You know, so continue to watch, read, go back and read up on what people have done. The ones who are up for re-election this time around, go read up on their records and make your choice at the ballot box. Learn about the new candidates, learn who they are, learn what they stand for. I think I'm pretty transparent on who I am and what I stand for, right? So learn about your candidates. Who are they? What do they stand for? And if they're new and they don't have a voting record and a policy record, then this is the time for you to get to know them and reach out. Guess what? They want to hear from you because they need your vote. Right? I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Rita.
Yeah, first I want to say congratulations. So to me, anybody who puts their name out there and is desiring to serve in a political office deserves a round of applause. So I applaud you for doing that, to want to make a difference. We all know when people get in these jobs, it's 24/7. And it's not something you're getting rich at. It's something you have to do from your heart because you truly want to make a difference. So thank you for doing that. You know, I'm Republican. I love you. I don't know what half my friends are. I don't really worry about party, but I just have to tell you, I'm really admire you, and I'm very, very happy for you. And I want to thank you for what you just said. Right now, especially, I think it's so important that people sign up for an absentee ballot. I mean, especially with coronavirus, don't wait and get in a position where you wish you could have, would have, or it's too long of a line or whatever it happens to be. I think it's so important. I signed up for one years ago. I will never go in again. It's too easy. And now you're telling me they're putting a stamp on it, for goodness sakes. So I think the other thing you said is terribly important as well, and that is learn about the candidates.
Yes.
So far too many people, I think, wait until it gets late in the game and they just say, what do I do? Or they leave them blank, and every vote counts.
Absolutely.
And so if you don't know about certain candidates for a certain position, start now. I mean, they'll probably publicize, I guess, Ann Marie, the names of the various candidates soon.
Yes.
So you can start watching the candidates. Usually they have websites, trying to understand and even contacting them if you need some additional information. Listen to the events that they're going to speak at, you know, and get your questions answered. I think, you know, a lot of times people say, we got to vote, but they really don't know what they're voting for, or they only know one or two of the 16 things on the ballot, and they don't. And so we need to have a voice for all of it, and really, you know, I was born and raised in Miami, and a lot of my friends came from Cuba, and that's one thing, boy, I kept hearing them say, coming from a communist country, is never taking for granted the opportunity to vote. Like that is right. That we have, and I think as good citizens, we should be informed and vote. So congratulations.
Absolutely. Well, Rita, I definitely won't hold it against you that you're Republican, because I have a lot of Republican friends. I just hope that you're not a Republican that voted for Trump. I'm going to hold that against you. And I know you probably don't want to disclose it, but, you know, I had to say that because I'm unapologetically going to fight very hard to get him out of office in November.
I work very hard on keeping my positions pretty private. And working. I support both parties, and I'd like to get away from that. I mean, I try to look at the person and the position and the philosophy, and I think that's what's important. I'm not one that's going to go R or D. I'm going to go, you know, what does this person stand for? What are their ethics? What do they bring to the table? So I'm more of a, you know, whoever I feel is the right person, that's who I go for.
And that is how it should be, which is why I'm able to, and many of us are able to have friends that are across aisles, because it's about the issues. It's about what's best for the people at the end of the day. But I'm sorry, Rita, but your boy is not what's best for the people at the end of the day.
I can tell you, even within my family of 11 kids, we have very spirited conversations. Very spirited conversation. But that's what makes it fun and good, because we're able to do it in a way that, at the end of the day, you still love one another, and that's what I love about you. We have great conversations, you and other friends, and some of my friends I have had for years, I don't even know what their party is, because we talk about a lot of stuff. And, I just hope, one thing I learned from my mom and dad, I was very blessed to have really, really great parents. I lost my dad 10 years ago, and I still have my wonderful mom at 98. And I think back over the years, when the president was on TV, when you were growing up, it was like you had to make the sign of the cross, pray, and, it was black and white TV. And, that was just what you did. But I never, ever, ever in my life heard my parents say anything bad about any president. Ever. But I've never, ever heard. They pretty much always taught us to like everybody. And I thought that was such a powerful message, that my mom and dad would always say, pray for whoever is in office, because if they do the right thing, the country does well, and we do well as communities and as people. Absolutely. So we have a vote. I think this is going to be a very active political year. We haven't seen a lot because we've had so many other things that we're working on, but I think that's going to shift because we're getting closer now. And I think so much can happen between now and August, or now in November. It behooves all of us to dig deep in our souls, to look at what each party stands for.
Yes.
And who you are aligned with. Forget you have to look at the party. You have to look at the people too, because they're the ones that I think should be your role models. And I think would be, I don't have a young child anymore, but one that you would want your child to emulate and respect. And that's what leaders are. Leaders have to earn that. A title just gives you the title, manager, supervisor, president, whatever it is. But you have to earn it. And you earn it every touch point, every day, every speech, every tweet, or you don't. And I think we all have to get much more informed and reach in our hearts and vote for what we think is in alignment with our values and where we want this country to be.
I absolutely agree. And I always tell people, because I meet people and I've met people and I've employed people who never once voted. And they say, well, why should I? Yeah. And by the time I have a conversation with them on why they should, because I never try to say you need to vote for this party, that's not my thing.
Yeah.
I tell people, you vote based on what's relevant to you and your personal needs and issues. What applies to me may not apply to you, right? Yeah. So, for example, I'm an immigrant. Mm-hmm. My family migrated here from Jamaica. Mm-hmm. I was 3 years old. Mm. So, yes, I'm a U.S. citizen now, but I wasn't a natural-born U.S. citizen, right? I was a Jamaican citizen. Mm-hmm. So, immigration is an issue that's important to me.
Yeah.
Because I can relate, because I'm an immigrant. Sure. When it comes to healthcare, I didn't have healthcare growing up. I didn't have healthcare in college. As a small business owner, healthcare is very expensive. Mm-hmm. So healthcare to me is a very important issue. So I give those examples to people and say, you have to look at whether it's a local issue, a state issue, or a national issue. You have to look at the things that pulls at your heartstring, the things that apply to your life, and the things that apply to your moral compass. And then you make a decision based on those things, on which candidates you support, which candidates you educate. You should educate yourself about all of them, because trust me, we know people can say whatever sounds good to get elected, And then once they get elected, it becomes a different story. We know there are those people, and then you have the people who are genuine, who this is my mission, this is my life's work, this is what I'm going to do when I get elected, and they get in there and they do it, right?
Yeah.
So there's a combination of the two. So you have to, like you said, watch people, watch what they say, watch their actions, and then watch how they actually behave and what they actually do. And that's how you make your decisions. I even though I'm a Democrat, because in Florida, you got to kind of pick a party. I mean, you can be independent, but then you can't vote in a primary. Yeah. And you got to keep changing your party. It's just too much. Yeah. So I always say pick a side so you can vote in the primaries, right? But at the same time, as a Black woman, don't get me wrong, Black people we've given our votes to the Democratic Party for many, many years. And do the Democratic Party have a lot of work to do? Absolutely. And does the Republican Party have a lot of work to do to earn our votes? Absolutely. And this is a time where both parties should really be paying attention and stop taking a Black vote for granted. I am so sick of whoever taking a Black vote for granted, but then you come and pander to the Black community just to get the vote. Yeah. That has got to stop. And we as a community have to say enough is enough. If you want our vote, Democrat, Republican, non-party, whether it's on a local issue, county, state, or federal issue, this is what we need for our community. And if you're not standing behind these things on this agenda, we can't vote for you.
Hey, Ann Marie. You should run for office. Have you ever thought about it?
I'd rather do this. But that is so real. Like, it's no longer acceptable for any party to take any groups, whether it's the LGBTQ group, the Hispanic community, the Black community, whoever. It's no longer acceptable for any party to take our votes for granted and just think you can just say something that sounds good and then go and do something else.
Yeah, I think we saw that with the Me Too movement. I mean, people, once that exploded and people said enough was enough. Yeah. And there's a big voice and there's a lot of resources behind it. People aren't discounting. I mean, I forget you said $1 trillion in spending power, whatever. I think women in general, I forget how many, I think it's $1 trillion or so. Yeah. I'd have to look it up, but it's huge. So you look at it and these are people who are buying your products, your services, going to your restaurants and so on. So it's not only makes good business sense, it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do. And on that note, let me see, there was a couple of announcements. Hold on. I was sent something about the Corey Jones. Okay, so I'm just going to read this. Ms. Sheila Banks sent it to me. She's one of the aunts of Corey Jones, late Corey Jones. As citizens of the state of Florida and surrounding states, we're asking Congressman Ted Deutsch to continue to co-sponsor the Corey Jones Act. As a member of the Judiciary Committee, we ask you to add H.R. 1787, the Corey Jones Act, to the Justice of Policing Act bill. We're also asking for Senators Kamala Harris and Cory Booker to support anyone who's interested in calling on the support of Congressman Ted Deutsch, which is our local congressman. He covers Palm Beach and parts of Broward County. You can reach him at 202-225-3001 or locally 561-470-5440. You can also email teresa.breyer@mail.house.gov or deutsch.office@mail.house.gov. And then I also have Senator Kamala Harris's and Cory Booker's information as well. And this is from from Sheila Banks and family. So that is for the Corey Jones Act, and it's House Bill HR 1787. So just wanted to make that announcement. I'll also share this later on my page for anyone who wants to participate in getting the support of that bill passed, so that we can continue to push for justice for Corey Jones and that he's not forgotten here in our community. So I want to make that announcement. And I think that's about it for this show today, Rita.
I just want to leave with a call to action, and I'll start with Corey Jones is, read it. I wrote it down, House Bill 1787. Learn about it. Just read about it, learn about it. Get your ballots, learn about the political process. And if you work in the public sector, private sector, volunteer, whatever, see if you can be the one to spark the excitement or interest in engaging in a conversation about what's working, what's not, understanding the impact of behavior, and see, here we are mid-June, and let's say a couple months from now, what do you want to be proud of? What do you want to say you did that changed the world? And so I'd like to leave everybody with that as a call to action.
I love that, Rita. And with that, I just want to add, there is a lane for everyone. We all have an opportunity to do something in our communities to make our communities better. Whether it's for those who are out there protesting, hats off to you. Continue that good fight. Continue to let your voice be heard. Don't let those who choose to unfortunately engage in any type of violence or looting, don't let that discourage you. Don't let that take away the true message that you're doing to ensure that there's equality, that there's justice, that there's equity, and that Black people are no longer taken for granted. Black people are no longer mistreated. So for all the protesters out there, shout out to you guys. Continue to do what you do. Continue to keep that voice. Continue to keep the pressure, because that is what is propelling the change that we're seeing today. For the corporate companies out there, be more than a corporate statement. Put some action into place. Make sure you're, like we said earlier, you're making sure that Black folks are at C-suite levels, that they're at the head of the table, that they're on boards, right? And that they're getting equal wages, and that you're not just doing, there are many companies where Black people and brown people are only paid the minimum wages and they're only hired for the low paying jobs. No, that has to stop.
Yeah. Ann Marie, I have to tell one more quick story. Do I have time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier, I was on the Urban League board, with Patrick Franklin, who's a wonderful leader. And I'll never forget, we had a big luncheon. There's a big luncheon that they have every year. And it was sold out, 450 people. The room was full. And the next board meeting, we were talking about it, and somebody said, that was so successful. It was sold out. It was really successful. And I said, no, it wasn't. And they said, what do you mean it wasn't? And I said, I looked around the room and it was full, but I didn't see all the business leaders there. I saw a lot of youth, which part of it was youth, but I didn't see the usuals that I would see at the big business events.
Absolutely.
And so I said, for that reason, I don't think it was successful. So until we get the whole community involved and passionate and embrace it, whether, embrace this issue and the whole ecosystem involved with it, whether it's homelessness, mental health, and every aspect.
Every aspect.
So that's going to help us work better together. We won't succeed unless we do that. So when it just made me think, companies, really, it's more than a check. We need your presence.
Yeah.
And we need your involvement.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We need you to show up and volunteer for the Urban Leagues of the world. We need you to financially support Urban Leagues and NAACPs and other nonprofits, because they're, believe it or not, Rita, just like there's the big American Cancer Society, we have Sojourners, I forget their whole name, but they're a small organization that provides a major service for African-American women who suffer from breast cancer or who's being treated for breast cancer, right? But how many corporate dollars go to those organizations? Very few, right? So if you are a company out there, again, not just a brand statement, let's put that into action. Let's deliberately, intentionally seek out nonprofits that you can help in the Black community. I'm the president of Girls to Women. We don't get much. We don't get any corporate funding.
I spoke a couple years ago.
Yes, I'm a poster child. I was one of the first graduates of the program 22 years ago. But we don't get corporate dollars. And I would love to get corporate dollars, but guess what? We are mentoring a group of volunteer, 100% volunteer organization. Every dollar we get goes to the girls. We're mentoring 60, 70 girls a year that are Black and brown girls, right? So if you want to put your money where your corporate statement is, support. Don't just support the big ones. Look for the small ones too that need your help. Please, developers. It's no longer acceptable to say, okay, we can't build affordable and workforce housing.
Yeah.
Why can't you? The people who are cafeteria workers, the people who are bus drivers, the people who are hospitality workers, they also need a decent, affordable place to live. So why can't you build those? You know, so it's so, like I said earlier, so many layers and there's so many things that we can do. But I think that each corporation, each person has a responsibility to look at how do we make a change effectively, starting within yourself, your thought process, your behaviors, and then you being intentional. Intentionally look for a Black business to support and purchase from and go dine at their restaurant, right? Go purchase products by a Black owned business owner. We got plenty of directories out there, trust me. If you don't know where to find one, and then you got the Black Chamber of Commerce that can also help you. You know, join the Black Chamber of Commerce. We don't discriminate at the Black Chamber of Commerce.
Look at your policies on how you pick vendors.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Hold on. I'm going to go off. I don't need to put a mask on here, do I?
No, you're good.
It's looking at, you know, what are your policies on getting vendors? Is it, you know, if I go over to this event, I'm going to probably find somebody like me there. And so, I'll buy from that person. Versus being, again, deliberate about doing an assessment right now today on who are we supporting in this community? What companies are we supporting?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of work to be done. We all play a role. We all, you know, again, whether you're protesting, whether you're having conversations like this today. Thank you, Rita, for having this conversation with me for both of our audiences, because you're tagged and everything. So, you know, whether we're having this conversation, whether you're having a conversation or you're making policy changes or you're being a public servant and running for office, we do need more people running for office, right? And stepping up. Whatever that activity that you choose, everyone plays a role. It could be making phone calls like what we just said to Senator Deutsch's office. That's a role. And you all have an opportunity to play a role in making change in our community. And I hope that each of you will take this time to do just that. Find your lane, find the thing that you can do. And like Rita said, when you look back months from now or years from now, and you can say, you know what, in 2020, although the year had started off with all types, we still don't even know what to expect, and knock on wood, for the rest of the year. But if you can say, I looked at the silver lining, I looked at the positive and the good that can come from everything that's happening in 2020, and this is what I did, this is the role that I played. That's a beautiful thing when we'll be able to look back a year from now and say, this is what I did. This is the part I played in that. So Rita, thank you. I love you to pieces.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you. Guys, we'll be back next month. So I only do Tea with Ann Marie once a month because I got a ton of other stuff to do.
You do?
And to be quite frank, the subject will always be around business, politics, and community happenings. I just don't know what will be happening a month from now because this year has been very unpredictable. So we don't know what the discussion is going to be 1 month from now.
Always a pleasure.
Definitely a pleasure. We'll catch up soon, Rita. Thank you so much for joining me. And thanks everyone for listening and tuning in. Please share this video. There's a lot of golden nuggets in here, from what to do to help your business to looking at the upcoming election, to what's going to be proposed in Tallahassee in the coming months. So please share this with others so that way you won't be the only one getting all this good information. And again, please do not hold any of the opinions of myself or Rita against any organizations that we're part of or that we represent.
There you go.
These are our opinions. All right. We love you guys. You guys take care. Stay safe out there. Rita, take care. Stay safe. Love you much.
Bye.
All right. Bye.